The year is 2031. The location is an upscale law office in San Francisco with a view of the Bay Bridge. Phil Harrison, 45, meets another lawyer to discuss a case. Phil is tall, blonde, and blue-eyed. He wears jeans and a Hawaiian shirt. The other lawyer wears slacks, white shirt and tie. What are they offering? Phil asks. My client has agreed to pay $40,000 in back wages to the busboys and dishwashers. Is that acceptable? You must be joking. It's the best they can do. I have a friend at immigration. He can put them out of business. 100,000? Done. Phil returns to his office. It's an older building on Market Street with a view of high-rise apartments. Phil's Stanford Law diploma hangs on the wall. His office is furnished with a mixture of things bought used. There are piles of files on every chair and cabinet. Phil sits down and studies a brief. Maxine Harrison, 42, is a therapist with a private practice. She is blonde, blue-eyed, and petite. She is in session with a 50-year-old male wearing an expensive suit. I keep having that dream, the client says. What dream is that? The dream about flaming arrows. What does that mean to you? I don't know. In his bedroom, Dan Harrison, 14, works on a pencil drawing. He is blonde, blue-eyed, and slightly built. He hears a quiet knock on the door. Come in, he says. Maxine comes in and looks over his shoulder. His drawing shows meteors falling, damaged buildings, and a screaming woman. What's that? She asks. It's just a picture. In a bunker deep under the White House, Ed Harrison, 75, meets with the president. Ed is chairman emeritus of the Atlantis Trading Company. He is tall, blonde, blue-eyed, and very fit for his age. He wears a dark blue suit. On the lapel, there is a gold pin in the form of a winged sun. A large screen shows a map of the solar system with the planets and their orbits. It also shows the meteor stream that is about to arrive. Mr. President, Ed says, our scientists tell us that the frequent impacts will start in 3 months. We appreciate your concern, Ed, but my people tell me it's nothing to worry about. We'll be just fine. You people still think that global warming is the biggest threat we face. Sometimes we feel like we're wasting our time talking to you. The president leaves. Back in the Oval Office, the president calls his chief of staff. What's the progress on my bunker? He asks. We're at about 97% completion. Keep the pressure on. They tell me we only have 3 months. In a restaurant with a view of the bay, Maxine and Ellen Jason, 43, meet for lunch. Ellen is a robust but feminine woman. When they hug, Ellen pulls Maxine in until their bellies are pressed tightly together. They sit down and talk like lovers. Phil's parents come to his house for Sunday lunch. Carol Harrison, 70, is tall, blonde, blue-eyed, and well turned out. After lunch, the women clean up, and Phil and Ed adjourn to Phil's shop area in the garage. Ed notes Phil's emergency supplies: a generator, food, water, camp stove, tent, and a water filter. You're going in the right direction here, Ed says, but it's not enough. I think I've got the most likely situations covered. What if the situation goes beyond that point? Ed asks. Not likely. Not likely, but possible. I have a life to live. I'm not one of those crazies who expects the end of the world. I just don't understand why you won't let me help you. Dad, I don't want a cushy job with one of your friends. It wouldn't be cushy. They'd work your ass off. It would still be something you arranged. No one makes it alone. I want success on my own terms. Suit yourself. I will. In his studio, radio host Jack Pressman, 55, introduces a guest who claims to be from Atlantis. Nikki Tesla, 36, wears a dark blue knit shirt with the winged sun logo. Nikki is tall, blonde, blue-eyed. Tonight we have a very special guest who claims to be from Atlantis, Nikki Tesla. Nikki, how are you? Just fine, Jack, and you? Fine. So you said you wanted to get right to the point tonight and fill in the background later. Is that right? Yes, it is. In his man cave, a guy dressed in camo reloads 223 ammo as he listens through the internet. A large shelf holds 5-gallon buckets of stored food. Water storage containers occupy the floor at the rear wall. A large first aid kit hangs from a peg. He has radios, gas masks, deep cycle batteries, a generator, and solar panels. Several guns hang on the wall behind the bench, a custom AR-15, a tactical shotgun, and a Glock 9 with a laser sight. There are cases of ammo and reloading supplies under the bench. He listens as he works. Listeners, Pressman says, you can go to the website to see the pictures he has uploaded. Nikki, what's your point? The Earth is about to suffer a lot of damage. Your listeners need to prepare, and a lot of them already are. Can you tell us what's going to happen? In the Senate office building, a senator pours shots of scotch while listening to the show. He has a diagram of the solar system up on a screen. It shows the planet orbits, and a large ring of tiny objects near the Earth. Certainly, Nikki says. The Earth is about to be hit by a storm of large meteors. What will cause that? Pressman asks. Some time ago, a rogue planet came into the solar system and broke up. The fragments formed a stream that circles around the sun. The Earth is about to enter that stream. That's the ring of tiny objects in your illustration. Right. But they aren't so small. Some of them are the size of houses. When they hit, they'll cause a lot of damage. Like a small atom bomb. But you're not sure they will hit? The odds are high enough to justify protecting ourselves. In the Mojave Desert, a truck pulls up to a gate decorated with the winged sun logo. The driver is tuned in to the Pressman show. The gate swings open. The truck drives up to a small building. A sign on the door says, Atlantis Trading. How can you be certain of this? Pressman asks. Our satellites in deep space have been watching this for years. And we haven't been warned? They don't want to spook the herd. What can we do about it? Dig. Dig deep. Dig fast. Now. On another Sunday afternoon, Phil sits in the big leather chair of his home office. He's watching a YouTube called Sane Prepping. The man on the video says, a lot of my friends think I'm crazy, and maybe I am. But when the shit hits the fan, I'll be ready. Phil pauses the video and calls his dad's cell. No answer. He leaves a message. Hey, just checking in to see that you're all right. Maxine comes in and puts her arms around his shoulders. You know, she says, you're more like your father than you realize. I don't think so. He's into all this survival stuff too. Do you think I'm crazy? Not really. Phil and Maxine make supper. I called my parents. No answer. Phil says. That's odd. They're usually home on Sunday. I think I need to call them again. Phil taps the number on his phone. He hears the ring on the other end, but no one answers. When voicemail comes on, he leaves another message. Dan comes in. They didn't mention any plans to go out of town. I think I need to go over there after supper. Phil says. They're probably okay, Maxine says. I'm sure they are, but I need to check. Can I go with you? Dan asks. Sure. Phil pulls into the driveway of his parents' townhome. There are no lights on inside or out. Phil opens the door and goes in. Phil walks through the living room into the kitchen area, turning on lights as he goes. He sees nothing unusual. Phil goes to the master bedroom, then the master bath. No signs of forced entry or foul play. Dan goes into Ed's office and wanders around looking at things. He turns on the computer, and the screen fills with strange characters. He rests his hand on a notebook lying on the desk, then opens it and flips through the pages. He takes it to his dad. Dad, look at this. Phil reads the address. So? Maybe they went there. Let's go see. They turn off all the lights, set the alarm, and lock the door. Phil and Dan drive slowly by the address they found in Ed's office. Above the door they see the winged sun logo. The door says, Atlantis Trading. Interesting, Phil says. After parking the car, Phil and Dan approach the door. Phil presses the button on the intercom. We're closed, a voice says. I'm just trying to find out what this place is. Read the sign. My parents are missing, and I found this address at their house. Come back tomorrow. Does the name Ed Harrison mean anything to you? Who are you? I'm Phil Harrison, Ed's son. Wait. Phil and Dan look at each other. After a pause, the electronic lock snicks open. Phil pulls the door, partway open, and sticks his head in. A man sits at a small desk at the end of a hall. He's wearing a dark blue knit shirt with the Winged Sun logo. They go in. Just inside the door, Phil notices a groove in the floor and sees the edge of a thick sliding door. He touches the door. Phil and Dan walk to the guard desk. The guard is an elderly, overweight Vietnam vet. The skin on his face is blotchy from decades of heavy drinking. The 1,000-yard stare still burns in his rheumy eyes. "Obviously, my name means something to you," Phil says. The guard doesn't respond. "Hey, listen," Phil continues. "You let me in after you heard my name, so you must know something. Why are you messing with me? Why don't you leave us your phone number, and we'll get back to you?" "That's not good enough. It's all I can do." The guard puts his hand on his gun. Phil scowls at the man. The guard passes him a paper and pen. Phil writes his name and cell number. "Call me." The guard stands up and says, "Good night." Phil pauses, then turns away. He and Dan walk down the hall and out the door. Outside the door, Phil and Dan pause before leaving. Phil kicks a small stone. "Bunch of bullshit." "I heard that," the intercom says. They walk away. In his room, Dan lies in bed watching a video titled "Elite Bunkers" on his tablet. All over the world, the narrator says, there are ancient tunnels and underground cities. Today, people with money are buying bunkers because they fear possible disasters. In their bedroom, Phil and Maxine are discussing the evening's events. Dan thinks we're going in the right direction on this, Phil says. His hunches are usually good. We'll see if they call tomorrow. If not, we have to go to the police. Phil rolls up on his elbow and gives her a kiss. The next morning, at school, Dan is sitting at a table with Katie Wolfson, 14. Katie is a nerdy tomboy sort of girl. "Didn't that place seem creepy to you?" Katie asks. Dan has his mouth full. Umph. Your grandpa must be weird. That's what my dad says. He thinks grandpa is a bad influence on me. In his office, Phil sits at his computer researching a case. His cell chimes. He sees that it's his dad. "How ya doing, kiddo?" Ed asks. "I'm doing fine, Dad." "Where the heck are you?" "I can't really explain that right now." "Are you busy this weekend?" "Not particularly." "Okay. I want you to pack an overnight bag and go back to that place you visited at 9 on Saturday morning." "Can you do that?" "Still have the address?" "Yeah, I guess so." "Why are you being so mysterious?" "Did you tell that guard to jerk me around?" "I wanted to motivate you." "We'll explain everything when you get here." "Who's we?" "See you Saturday?" Yeah. Geez. Phil hangs up. In Ellen's bedroom, Maxine and Ellen lie naked under the sheet after making love. Maxine cuddles up against Ellen. "Do you think Phil knows about us?" Ellen asks. "No. He's so preoccupied with his business that he scarcely has time for me anymore. And then there's all that nonsense about preparing for disaster. It makes him feel more in control of his life. He seems to work hard without getting anywhere. I think he frustrates himself, but he's not aware of it." The women pause, enjoying their closeness. "Sometimes I worry about Dan," Maxine says. "How so?" "He's very special in some ways, and that also makes him odd compared to a lot of kids his age." "You mean his intuition?" "Yes. You told me that runs in his grandma's family and causes problems for everyone. He's still your baby." "I've enjoyed watching him grow up." "Yes, and I love him so much." Maxine hugs Ellen tighter. In a gun shop, Phil looks at the array of guns in the racks and under the glass. The owner finishes with another customer and then comes down the counter to Phil. "See anything you like?" "I don't know. I'm new to this." "Didn't your dad teach you to shoot?" "Not in Atherton." The gun shop owner laughs. "This is the land of snowflakes and sissies," he says. "Why do you want a gun?" "Hunting? Target practice?" "It's mostly for protection. Many people buy pistols for that, but it's easier to hit with a long gun." The dealer turns to the rack and pulls down a black, short-barreled 12-gauge pump. He lays it down in front of Phil. "No one will mess with you if you have this." The gun shop owner takes a practice shell and shows Phil how to load it. "Don't load it until you need to. This is how you clear a live shell out of the chamber. He presses the action release and pumps it. He tips it over and pushes the safety. See the red line? That means it's on safe. If you have to fire it, hold it tight because it kicks hard. I'm not expecting a war, but you are expecting something. After dinner, Phil and Maxine clear the table and load the dishwasher. This whole thing is pretty off the wall, Maxine says. I think his mind is going. He still seems lucid to me. He's done some strange things in his time, but this one tops it all. Well, the address was real, and he didn't seem upset, did he? No code word. Code word? We have a word we can use to suggest trouble. It's something he told me a long time ago. We've never used it. So do you think we should go there this weekend? I suppose I could go alone or call the cops. What would they do? Probably not much. They're not missing. No evidence of a crime. And Carol must be with him. So, yes or no? I guess it's a yes. We need to know what's going on with them. On Saturday morning, Phil, Maxine, and Dan arrive outside Atlantis Trading. Phil pushes the buzzer. Good morning. We've been expecting you. Phil points out the camera to Maxine. She makes a face. The door snicks open. Come on in. They go in. Phil leads the way to the guard desk. We're, Phil says. The Harrisons. The guard picks up the phone. They're here. I'll be up in a minute, a voice says. He's on his way, the guard says. After a minute, a door opens behind the guard. The watcher, 70, holds it open for them. The watcher is a slender man with a receding hairline and translucent skin. He's wearing a gray uniform with the Winged Sun logo. This way, please, the watcher says. They hold back. It's quite safe. Please. Phil leads them through the door. They follow the watcher down a featureless corridor. Where are my parents? Phil asks. You'll see them soon. I hate all this mystery. I'm sorry. We have our reasons. Who's this we I keep hearing about? You'll learn that too. Never a straight answer. I'm sorry. Procedure. They come to an elevator. The watcher touches the palm reader. The door opens and the watcher motions for them to enter. The elevator panel has only up and down buttons. The elevator falls rapidly, leaving them feeling slightly weightless. It slows and stops. The elevator door opens to another featureless corridor. The watcher stops at a door and touches the palm reader. The door opens, revealing a small subway station. They climb aboard a car and are whisked away. We've been going for quite a while, Phil says. We're going to the Ark where your parents are, the watcher says. Ark? We do see the humor in that. The subway stops and the doors open on a small platform. Ed and Carol are waiting for them. Phil lets go of his bag and rushes over to hug his mom. Then he turns to confront his dad. What the fuck is going on here? Phil demands. Why all the mystery? In due course, kiddo, Ed says. Don't call me kiddo, Dad. I hate that. I'm not a kid anymore. Okay. Have you had breakfast yet? Of course we did. It's 9 o'clock. Let's go sit down where we can talk about all this. I'd like that. I really would. Ed chuckles. No need to be so tense, Ed says. I'm not tense. Ed smiles broadly. Whatever. Ed turns to the watcher. Let's go. The watcher opens another door. They enter a bright cafe filled with greenery. Just put your stuff over there and sit down so we can talk, Ed says. Ed turns to Dan and points to an area where there are some couches and low tables. I need you to go over there and keep busy while we talk. But I want to listen, Dan says. Ed leads Dan over to the lounge area. With a wink, he hands Dan a tablet and taps the screen. A video about Velikovsky comes on. You can play with this. It's all in there. Oh, okay. Dan flops down on a couch, and Ed goes back to sit with the other adults. So what's this all about? Phil demands. Life on this planet is about to change for the worse, the watcher says. Oh, really? We're going to have a lot of meteors hit us, Carol says. We have those now. Not like it's going to be, the watcher says. And what's going to make it so much worse? We know that a lot of large meteors, some bigger than houses, are coming our way. The Watcher says. They can cause explosions as big as an atom bomb. Dan had a dream about rain that caused things to burn. Maxine says. He's probably a precog. The Watcher says. What's that? Phil asks. Someone who sees the shadow of events before they happen. The Watcher says. Do you know how crazy this all sounds? Maxine asks. It just seems like more doomsday crap to me. 2012 and all that. Phil says. Well, there was a lot of crap in the 2012 hubbub. The Watcher says, but there was also a kernel of truth. What is this, the Department of Tall Tales? Phil shouts. I understand your cynicism, but it's not justified. The Watcher says. Do you have anything evidence to support this? Phil asks. We do. In our labs. I'd like to see it, and it better be good. Phil says. Phil, he knows you're a lawyer out there. Ed says. Show me what you have. They leave the cafe and walk down another featureless corridor. As they go, they see several tall, blonde, blue-eyed people, dressed in the kind of clothes you see at fashion shows. They come to a door. The Watcher touches the palm reader and the door opens. They go in. The Watcher introduces them to Dr. Heinrich, who speaks precisely with a German accent. This is Dr. Ernst Heinrich. He came out of East Germany after the wall fell. The Watcher says. I am so pleased to meet all of you. Heinrich says. How's it going? The Watcher asks. Activity is increasing, and the worst is yet to come. I know you're busy, but could you take a moment to give these people some background? The Watcher asks. The Watcher puts his hand on Phil's shoulder. This guy thinks this is all crap. I sincerely wish it was. Dr. Heinrich says. This will not be a pleasure cruise for anyone. Dr. Heinrich touches a screen. You have probably seen or at least heard about the meteor showers we have every year. I have. Phil says. Get to the point, please. Those meteors come from meteor streams that have both thick and thin areas. By that I mean that sometimes the objects that hit us are larger and more numerous than the average. In fact, they can be so large they cause extinction events, such as the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. Heinrich shows an illustration of dinosaurs, then of the impact area north of the Yucatan. It's been millions of years since that happened. Phil says. Every 2,500 to 3,000 years, we pass through a very thick part of the stream. It can be very damaging to life on Earth. At this point in time, all the larger planets are on one side of the sun. This means that we have lost quite a bit of our gravitational protection. Why haven't we heard about this? You would have to ask the CIA about that. First doomsday, now conspiracy theories. What's next? Phil, cynicism will not save your life, nor the lives of your family. We've gone from deep space to deep bullshit. Heinrich brings up a picture of a crater with wrecked houses in the background. Do you remember that gas explosion in San Bruno a few years ago? I could see the smoke from the house. There was a natural gas fire, but a meteor strike caused it. Some people thought they saw a plane crash. Look at this picture. See the scrape mark on one side and the rubble piled up on the other? That's what meteors do when they come in at an angle. Shit. Lied to again. The Harrisons and the Watcher sit around a table in a restaurant, having coffee and desserts. Why haven't you told us about this before?